Part 15. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 141. Zhang Xiaoyan hurriedly shook her head and said, "Forget it, we can't communicate with others when we go there, and the meals are different. Speaking Mandarin, let's talk about it. The world is so big, you have to go out and have a look. In the future, the South will be the economic center of gravity, and the coastal economy will be the key development area. I don't want to live in a big villa, it's too empty." Lu Feng didn't speak, but Zhang Xiaoyan felt that he had already made a decision. As long as it was what he brought up, it was basically settled. The team had been negotiating for more than half a month. Due to the frequent headlines of GMA Food, the progress of the negotiation was extremely difficult. In fact, for this piece of land, Lu Feng's original plan was to take about 20 million funds, but now he is stuck here, which also surprises him. Who to look for? Lu Feng had made several calls before going. The other party felt that GMA Food was too risky and had huge business risks, and had obtained investment promotion policies all over the country, and there were situations where land and factories were mortgaged multiple times. Lu Feng told the other party about his production and operation, and guaranteed the funds. He could show them the detailed market data of the 6 factories currently in operation. This time, I not only took a change of clothes, but also a lot of data. Before leaving, I held a meeting with Gao Jiwei, explained some recent things, and boarded the plane in the afternoon. Before the plane took off, Lu Feng and Zhang Fengxia next to him checked whether the information he brought with him was complete. When the plane was taxiing on the runway, Lu Feng leaned on the backrest and closed his eyes, but he did not know that this trip was a trip to prison. The 4 characters of GMA Food are well known in the whole country, but Lu Feng has not shown his face in public. There are still food stamps in some poor areas in China, and there are great differences between provinces. Most of the analysis of GMA Food by newspapers in coastal areas is from the financial level, while in some places it is analyzed from the nature. Many people are talking about GMA Food in private. Many people think that GMA Food should be overthrown. Its existence is a model of empty gloves and white wolf, and it will play a very bad representative role in the free market. There are also some people who believe that the natural market should be freed up, and legal rules should be established to make the commercial market work better. There were dozens of people sitting in a conference room, the atmosphere was serious, and the faces of several people were blushing. People will come soon. The owner of GMA Food should be arrested immediately. What assets does he have? What means of production does he have? But it's what domestic food companies do best now. How do you explain that? You can't look at the moment. Letting GMA Food become bigger and stronger is to set up a bad example. It should be honest, it should serve the people, rather than driving backwards, disrupting the market, and speculating. I even doubt his ingredients. Hey, it's all right. My suggestion is to talk first, and ask for instructions when it's time to ask for instructions. As far as I know, there are many people who want to sue GMA Foods. Some people criticize it more severely than us, saying that it has gone astray. People from the investment promotion office should receive reception. That Mr. Lu didn't say that he has market data, and he also talked about a lot of future markets. It is good. When Lu Feng left the airport, there was already a Tianjin Dafa van waiting. The driver was a young man. He was a little surprised when he saw Lu Feng and Zhang Fengxia. "You two are from GMA Food?" "Yes, are you here to pick us up?" The other party nodded, looked suspiciously for a while and asked, "I heard it's the boss of GMA Food stuff. Are you two bosses?" "I'm the owner of GMA Foods, and this is my secretary," Lu Feng introduced. The driver was a little dumbfounded. He was too young. Hearing that this GMA Food is worth a lot of money, he said, "I'm here to pick you up. Get in the car. Where are you going to live?" "We don't care," Just keep it simple. Zhang Fengxia dragged her suitcase and said, just your biggest hotel. The driver glanced at the rearview mirror, nodded, kicked the accelerator and sped away. In front of the Jiangguo Hotel, Lu Feng dragged his suitcase out of the car and asked, I want to ask, Director CAI, who communicated with us on the phone. When can we meet and talk? In the evening, Director CAI said that you should prepare the information on the phone and have a meal together in the evening. Okay. Lu Feng dragged his things into the lobby, opened 2 rooms, and returned to the room to sort out the information immediately. Are you sure you can convince people? Zhang Fengxia said after sorting out the financial information of GMA Food. The previous team has been very laborious. During this time, the news of GMA Food is flying around. Haven't you noticed the evaluation of you by some important newspapers? Zhang Fengxia has already made it very clear, so she was about to tell Lu Feng that there are already many people saying that you are speculating, and many people are pushing this matter behind your back. As for Zhang Fengxia's words, Lu Feng naturally understood that standing at the crossroads of this era, if he didn't know which way the wheel of history was rolling, he would never dare to take risks. A person has a person's destiny, a country has a country's destiny, and the wheels of history are rolling away, which will take you to a different future. If you have to experience it, then I am willing to experience it. Lu Feng sorted out 2 folders, closed the suitcase, and put it aside, saying, take a good look at these documents, take a rest, and talk about it later in the evening. In the evening, 3 cars parked downstairs of the hotel, and 6 or 7 people walked down, led by a man in his 50s, dressed in a grey suit, got out of the car and chatted with others. The remaining 6, all of them are polite, wearing glasses, and they are all about 40 years old. 20 minutes ago, Lu Feng received a call. The person from the investment promotion office said that he would have a light meal in this hotel and ask him to prepare the information. He had already discussed everything that should have been discussed before. Today is mainly to update the information. Bang bang bang. There was a sound outside the door. Lu Feng opened the door and saw the waiter standing at the door, asking, what's wrong? You are Mr. Lu, right? Yes. Director CAI has prepared a light meal on the 5th floor. I'll take you there. Ah, Lu Feng was thinking of ordering a table and serving a few bottles of good wine, but this sudden arrival made him a little confused. Oh, by the way, he told you to bring your documents. I see. Lu Feng went to the next door and knocked on Zhang Fengxia's door. After bringing his things, he followed the waiter downstairs. Lu Feng could sense that something was not quite right. This style of doing things was very intriguing. Going downstairs was not a private room, but a living room, more like a small conference room. The door opened, Director CAI stood up, was slightly surprised when he saw Lu Feng, and asked, are you the boss of GMA Foods? Yes. Are you Director CAI? The people present stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes. He was too young. In the age they imagined, Lu Feng should be a treacherous person with a big belly and big ears in his 40s and 50s. Hello, please take a seat. This is not a restaurant, nor is it a private room. I originally thought of setting a table upstairs. Let's eat and drink, and I'll be the host. How about it? Lu Feng suggested. This is not necessary. We are not suitable for eating and drinking with businessmen like Mr. Lu. We ordered a working meal to eat together. By the way, I looked at the information. On the phone, Mr. Lu said that you have absolute sincerity and ability. Come out, Director CAI said in a business-like manner. Today, there are people from finance, taxation, land management, and city management. Lu Feng didn't look good when he sat down. He had dealt with them too many times in 2 lifetimes, laughing and laughing, eating, drinking, and drinking can get things done, which means it's not a big deal. In this state, Lu Feng felt a little tricky. In addition to what Zhang Fengxia said in the afternoon, she suddenly felt different in her heart. She coughed and sat down, her face sinking like water, and she reached out and took the information from Zhang Fengxia's hand. Let me first introduce the situation of our company. At present, there are 12,400 employees and a market value of about 500 million, including land, factories, and market values in various provinces across the country. As the #1 beverage company, we have enough strength to expand the market and bring enough jobs to the local area. This is the value brought by GMA Foods' presence in Taiyuan. Mr. Liu mentioned land and factories. How many factories do you actually own now? How much is your company's physical value? That's right, all the land we have acquired has been mortgaged to the bank. With the loan from the bank, we will build a new factory with a tax-free policy. Judging from the current market response, this is our sales data. Within 3 years, if you buy back your own factory, there will be no problem. To put it bluntly, you have nothing now. Can I understand that? I can't understand that. We have a market, our brand has brand value, and we have the recognition of the people. If you think these are worthless, is Wahaha also worthless? They have a factory, and at the beginning of this year they bought the ownership of a factory of a state-owned enterprise for 80 million yuan. What do you mean by studying this? Our liabilities are within the acceptable range. As our products become bigger and stronger, the market will continue to feed back funds. We only get loans from banks in the form of land pledges. This it's legal and compliant. Lu Feng leaned back in his chair and looked at everyone present and said, we're discussing in the wrong direction. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 142. Mr. Liu, the direction is not wrong. If GMA Foods wants to obtain approval, land, and policies, it has to review the risks. Your company has a high degree of risk. I talked to your team before and they said that they can take a few. The factories are pledged, but according to the news we recently obtained, those factories are not yours. It's true that the factory is not ours. The current factories are all rented, but the production lines imported from abroad are ours, and the market is also ours. Lu Feng handed the information in his hand to the person next to him and said, I believe that in the future GMA Foods will have there is a big development, and we have not raised funds yet, so there will be no problems with funding. You don't have a business, so I'm going to ask you a question now. You have so much capital, but you haven't invested in the entity. Will you go abroad with the money one day? It's not that I don't invest in the industry, but I will build it slowly. According to the contract signed before, I will build a new factory area. That is to say, you have no money now, and now you are competing with Wahaha in the market, and the capital consumption is huge. If you have no money, you may not be able to survive, and you may close down. Wait a minute, Lu Feng hurriedly interrupted him and said, we won't be able to last, and we are the #1 market share now. You can look at these materials. We have no financing, and we are now completely. You can go to the south to seek financing platforms, even Hong Kong and overseas markets. Then why don't you go? You write in your conditions that the free land is not less than 1,000 mu, the factory construction is divided into 5 phases, the interest-free loan fund is not less than 20 million, and it cannot be used as a special fund. GMA Food can embezzle the money, it only needs to return it within 3 months, the annual interest rate will be calculated if it exceeds 3 months, and it will be a default if it exceeds 5 months. Can we think that you are passing on market risk? I need funds now, so why don't I raise money, because now the financing will definitely be gnawed down by the market. My market has no risk, GMA Food has been winning, as long as the profit increases. GMA Food's current daily sales are approaching 110,000. Lu Feng flipped through the information for everyone to see, and said, Wahaha sales exceeded 100 million last year, and we can break 300 million this year. But your asset risk is too high. As far as we know, GMA Food has a debt of over 100 million yuan, and you account for 65% of the shares. Mr. Liu, you can owe 65 million in business, which is not easy. What? The two sides were arguing endlessly. The other side kept talking about Lu Feng's debt ratio, turning a blind eye to the market performance. They didn't realize that it was a value, and they even ridiculed Lu Feng's tactics. We started talking at 6:30 in the evening, and until 9 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng's voice was hoarse. These people were not good enough. Director CAI found a group of people who claimed to be professionals. The fundamental problem was that they felt any debt is the source of danger, and it is the same supply system. Director CAI had already left. Before leaving, he said that he would go back to report, hold a meeting, and talk about it in a few days. This matter is already a major investment issue and will be considered carefully, but they feel that if Lu Feng can handle the debt problem, everything will be fine. All good to say. Damn it, Lu Feng slammed the table and shouted, I've dealt with all my humming debts, so I don't need to talk to them. These people want absolutes, and you carry risks. It's not a risk, it's a concept. Lu Feng was so angry that he wanted to say it, but he felt that it was boring to say it, so he said angrily, issue the food ticket and count the ball. Before dinner, Zhang Fengxia sorted out the documents and took them back. She went back to her room to call Gao Jiwei and told about today's situation. Gao Jiwei sighed and knew that things were not that simple. The food is about to stink. What we can do now is to prepare for financing, even if it is to sell a little more equity. The current situation of GMA Food is that it will be a bright future after this wave. For 2 or 3 consecutive days, the two sides did not have contact, but some newspapers kept publishing news about GMA Foods. Especially funding issues. The only company in the country with debts over 100 million yuan, how many companies in the country are now able to come up with 100 million yuan in cash? No, not one family. Lu Feng relied on the fleece from all over the country to achieve what he is today. If GMA Foods collapsed, would it mean that the provinces have added a huge bad debt? More newspapers are talking about whether the example of GMA Food has made a bad choice for the free market under the current situation, and whether others will follow suit after seeing it. The product sales in the market are hot, but the newspapers are full of infamy, forming a severely fragmented image. In the conference room, a briefing meeting was going on, these newspapers were placed on the table, and the people present were arguing fiercely. Now it's not about whether to give land or loans, but whether the existence of such enterprises has brought injustice to other enterprises. Such enterprises are too risky to expand without cost. This is serious speculation. I also think the harm to society is too great. Letting people like Lu Feng run rampant in the market will definitely cause damage to other companies. If they are not punished, more companies will follow suit, and the consequences will be disastrous. I think that since it is a free market, it can be done without prohibition by law. That's all messed up. You can do whatever you want. The other brothers have communicated their identities, and they also feel that the risk is high. It's not wrong to put this crime on his head because of speculation. Then what should I do? Are you detained first? This year has been a year of confusion. How free is the free market? Many people think that once it is free, all the scams will come out. From the planned economy to the free economy, many places are crossing the river by feeling the stones, and they are very afraid. Enterprise development must be down to earth, that is, how much money to do as much as possible. As for financing, advancing development and developing enterprises according to market prospects, it is not allowed at all. Many things are unclear in this era. Some people say that short selling is speculative, and some people say that hoarding is speculative. Others say that price fluctuations should be determined by the free market, and high returns represent high risks. This kind of vacillation did not settle down until after the grandfather's southern tour in 1992. He was like a needle in the market storm, and he completely settled down the impetuous and swaying hearts. As for how free the free market is, there was a lot of noise at the scene. In the end, the person sitting in the first place clapped the table and decided to detain Lu Feng first and detain him on the basis of speculation. As the first company in the beverage market, GMA Foods is definitely a dominant presence. Such a big thing, they have to report. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng was eating in the restaurant, and Zhang Fengxia was sitting opposite and talking about what Gao Jiwei said last night. "Are you Lu Feng?" "Ah," Lu Feng raised his head and looked at the three of them, wondering, "Yeah, what's wrong?" "It's all you that the information shows, ID card, name, age, company position." Lu Feng glanced at it and nodded, "What's wrong?" "You are suspected of speculating, and now you are officially detained." The man waved his hand and said, "Hold on. Did you arrest the wrong person?" Zhang Fengxia stood up and shouted, "He is the boss of GMA Foodstuffs. He also talked to Director CAI of your investment promotion office a few days ago. What is the speculation?" After thinking about it for a few seconds, Lu Feng already understood and said to Zhang Fengxia, "It's okay, it's just detention. You tell Gao Jiwei and let him handle the affairs in the factory. If you have any questions, please communicate with Duke Feng." Lu Feng wanted to give a few more orders, but he was already taken away. Many people in the restaurant noticed the situation here, and they were all in the mood to eat for a while, mumbling about what happened. Lu Feng thanked that there is no mobile phone to take pictures, and the circle of friends. As soon as it was reported on the internet, the stock price plummeted. Zhang Fengxia called Gao Jiwei as soon as possible, and the other side was shocked to hear that Lu Feng was arrested. For so long, Lu Feng has always been the backbone. As long as he is there is no problem. But now that he was arrested, Gao Jiwei panicked for a while, and hurriedly called Duke Feng to discuss how to get people. There is no airtight wall in the world, not to mention that GMA Food is so hot. Some newspapers got the news in the afternoon, and then Wahaha also got the news. Lu Feng was put in a van and pulled back to the police station. Several people pressed him on chairs to interrogate him. "Why did you come in?" "How do I know? I was eating and discussing things when I was suddenly arrested." "Speak well, why did you come in?" "They said it was speculative. I don't think I was." "What's on sale? What's the price? How much above the market price?" "Comrade police officer, my question is more complicated. It's not about selling anything, it's about financial issues," Lu Feng said with a smile. "I was pulled over after I ate half breakfast. Can I put the meal first?" "Come to us for a meal? Who are you fooling? Tell me honestly." Lu Feng sighed and said, "It's like this, I have a factory, I use this factory as collateral, and relying on the investment promotion policy, I obtained free land, and then mortgaged the land to the bank to obtain interest-free funds, and then misappropriated the funds to use buying an assembly line and recruiting employees, and at the same time going to other provinces to increase leverage, multiplied. You're going around, why don't you go to work if you have such a brain? Are you not ashamed to sit here?" "Part-time job," Lu Feng grinned and said, paralyzed, "part-time work is impossible. It's impossible to work part-time in this life, only entrepreneurship can sustain life like this." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 143. A few police chiefs have never heard such arrogant words before, and when they asked him about related things, he was also talking about leverage, financial bridges, lending, financing and other strange words, which were crowded. After talking for a while, he shouted that he wanted to eat, and seeing that it was noon, he was locked in first. Lu Feng walked in front, The two uncles in the back were pushing a small cart with two heat preservation buckets and some tableware, and an elderly aunt was holding a spoon in her hand. Lu Feng saw that the people inside were in different shapes just now, squatting, lying down, or chatting, and saw the ants stand up one after another. "Auntie, I'm here on the first day today, so please make more meals." Lu Feng turned his head and grinned and flattered, "Look at how beautiful you are. Stop talking nonsense, plan to live here forever? Go in." The door of a room opened, and Lu Feng was pushed in. The others had already lined up and waited. There were police officers at the scene, berating them, telling everyone to line up, or else they would not be given food. Lu Feng stood at the last one and took a look. There were 11 people locked up in this room. Some of them had dragons and tigers, they looked fierce, and there were a few thieves. All of these people looked at Lu Feng on. The food was very ordinary, with potatoes stewed with cabbage, 2 steamed buns for one person, everyone squatting on the ground with their bowls and devoured it. Lu Feng had also heard some stories about the detention center, but he really didn't know whether it was true or not. "I heard that fights are very common, and the thieves are more likely to be bullied. As for the eldest brother, it will be a lot easier. Lu Feng is a medium figure among these people. The look of many years." "Hey, why did you come in?" asked a tattooed man across from him. "Me," Lu Feng thought for a while and said, "It's not a big deal, just kill a few people." Everyone present raised their heads to look at Lu Feng, their eyes widened, and some couldn't believe it. "What about you?" the tattooed man asked the short man next to Lu Feng again. "I'm also a murderer. I killed more than a dozen pots," the man said, his face was obviously nervous. "Brother, your accent sounds like Cantonese. You humming killed a dozen people from Cantonese in Shaanxi. Aren't you a chicken club? I have a big pot behind me, don't mess around. Stop coming here, who are you kidding? You two sleep on the urinal at night, do you know that?" The man pointed at the tattooed man next to him and said, "This is your brother Long, I am brother Hu, this room, you have to listen to us, understand?" "Understood," the elder brother nodded hurriedly. Lu Feng leaned against the wall and didn't say a word. The aunt who was working just now came over and shouted, "I've paid my job." In the afternoon, some local reporters, Wang, besieged the factory of GMA Foods, and the phones in each office were about to blow up. Gao Jiwei wanted to call Du Kefeng at the first time, and the two discussed it. "The influence is too bad, let it be suppressed first." At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Du Kefeng and Gao Jiwei met with reporters in 2 places. They responded to the rumors that the CEO of GMA Foods was detained for being suspected of speculation, saying that this was a rumor. "The CEO was currently on vacation outside, and we reserve legal rights to this kind of thing, and we will never replay any maliciously slandering individuals and companies." There was a lot of rumors about the matter. Some people said that GMA Food could not resist it, and some people in the streets and alleys said that the two companies were wrestling their arms to compare their arms. GMA Food's arms were not thick enough, and they got in. After Zhang Xiaoyan got the news, she rushed to the factory as soon as possible, pushed open the door of Gao Jiwei's office, found that he was not there, turned around and went to the conference room to find him. The door was suddenly pushed open, and everyone in the conference room was stunned. Zhang Xiaoyan asked, "Is something wrong with Lu Feng?" "No, Mr. Lu is fine." Gao Jiwei hurriedly stood up and said, "You guys take a look at the documents first, I'll be back in a while." Out of the conference room door, there was a corner next to it. Zhang Xiaoyan said nervously, "My friend called me just now. Said he was caught, and it was serious, and said he was going to be shot." Zhang Xiaoyan burst into tears while talking, and asked, "I called him, but he didn't answer the paging, are you sure it's all right? Don't listen to your friend's nonsense. It won't be shot. He is indeed detained. I'm still trying to figure out a way, but it's not a big problem. It will come out in a few days. Before Gao Jiwei's words were finished, Zhang Xiaoyan had already cried to tears, sobbing, "What should I do? He is finished, how can I live? Don't cry, it's alright, it'll be alright, Mr. Liu has never seen any ups and downs, Secretary Zhang is over there, Secretary Zhang is not an ordinary person, if you don't say it's alright, just give him a call if you have something." "I can also come out," Gao Jiwei said with relief. Gao Jiwei was afraid that the people in the factory would see that people's hearts were a little impetuous now, so he comforted her for a while, let her go home first, and would notify her as soon as anything happened. Gao Jiwei first ensured that production and sales were not interrupted, the market was not affected, and the shipments were maintained. Secondly, he contacted all the relationships that could be contacted, and figured out the nature of Lu Feng's matter, and even called Huang Youwei. Huang Youwei was delighted to hear the news of Lu Feng's arrest, but told Gao Jiwei that he was arrested sooner or later. "Whether he can be released is not up to you or me. He has already been arrested. Not only you watch, but many companies are also watching, even some foreign companies." In Wahaha's office, there has been a lot of talk about the recent performance in the market. The meeting came to an end. A senior executive said, "Zone, GMA Foods Lu Feng has been detained. I heard that it was speculative, should we give it a shot? It's good to see this, don't get involved too much, it's easy to offend people, if this wave of Lu Feng gets the money, there is no need to fight tit for tat in the market, and if we continue, we can only lose both sides, let's call it quits. Those present, look at me, and I look at you. I don't know what President Zone means." I sorted out the documents one by one, stood up and went about my own business. In the hotel, Zhang Fengxia had just hung up the phone. Zhang Xiaoyan wanted her to help with any amount of money. If Lu Feng would not give it, she would pay for it herself, as long as everyone came back safely. Listening to Zhang Xiaoyan's pleas on the phone, and the many cries, it was impossible to remain sympathetic. After all, she had gone shopping with Zhang Xiaoyan a few times, and she had to say that Zhang Xiaoyan was a very easygoing woman. Zhang Fengxia was a little tangled. She stayed just to learn something. In terms of business management, both Lu Feng and Gao Jiwei have a lot to learn. Now that such a big thing has happened, does she need to call her grandpa? The clock on the wall was ticking, and it was already 8:30 in the evening. Zhang Fengxia picked up the phone and dialed a number to go out. "Hey, grandpa, what are you doing?" "Wait for your call, I just read the news, the owner of GMA Foodstuff was arrested, right? Although the rumors were refuted and said that people were alright, but you called and I knew something was wrong. You really know everything. I just wanted to ask him if it's a big deal. His wife called me just now, and I couldn't bear it. This matter, whether it is big or small, let's wait for the news, it is useless for anyone to come, they are also waiting for the news." In the afternoon, Lu Feng was also familiar with these people in the room. The 4 tattoos, including Brother Hu and Brother Long, were all on the road, because they were caught in a fight. There is also a rat named Rat, who is a thief with a stubborn face. After dinner, a group of mice gave Brother Hu a massage. Lu Feng sat on the ground and looked at the buddy and asked, "Why did you come in?" "Me?" Turning the TV upside down, they said I was speculating, but I didn't sell it that expensive, it was the same price as the market price, this guy said, a little aggrieved. "Your surname?" "My name is Kuining, how about you?" "My name is Lu Feng, are you a TV manufacturer?" Lu Feng asked curiously, "What's the profit margin?" Kuining smiled awkwardly, looked around, and whispered, "The parts are all smuggled in. I assemble it myself. It's a small business. It's a little more expensive to sell to the mainland. I didn't expect to be caught." Lu Feng nodded, the current rampant smuggling is also staggering. What are you doing? Kui Ning looked at Lu Feng and saw that he was young but full of style, not like an ordinary person. I opened a factory called GMA Food. GMA Food, Kui Ning's face was full of shock. He had not listened to the 4 words GMA Food a lot during this time. About its owner, it was amazing, but he didn't expect to be so young. What's wrong? Fortunate to meet. I really did not expect the owner of GMA Foods to be so young. Kui Ning shook Lu Feng's hand and said excitedly, I have heard many big bosses say that I don't know if this company has developed, but the owner of a business is definitely a great guy. I've won the prize. You can leave a contact information after you go out. I'm still more interested in TV. That's great. I'm very professional in circuit boards and integrated displays, but now all I have is money. If I can meet Mr. Lu, this prison is not a waste. Those two. What about the 2 of you? What are you whispering about? The mouse stood up and said with his fingers, Lu Feng, get over here for me. Damn, hide there and enjoy yourself, Brother Long, they are very friendly. I don't respect you. Brother Hu turned his head and his eyes were gloomy. The cross on his face was full of unhappiness. The man on the side shouted, it's abolished, you 2 are abolished. Brother Long is very angry, and the consequences are very serious. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 144. Kui Ning looked at the mice and said, don't go too far, let me tell you, we are different. I know, he killed several, you killed more than a dozen. Ha 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 ha. Not to mention this room, the next room laughed, and the entire detention center was full of joy. I think you don't respect people a bit. Let me introduce to you solemnly. I am a businessman and the CEO of a high-end TV industry company in the coastal area. Let me talk about this one, the boss of the famous GMA Foods, Mr. Lu. I can shake the whole business world with him. Don't think that we are living in the same house, and we are superior to others. This is a great opportunity for you, as long as we are happy. After you go out, you will have endless money to spend. Are you talking about your mother here with me? Brother Hu sat up and threw a shoe over and smashed it directly on Kui Ning's head. Brother Long sat up, put on his shoes, and came over. He was shirtless, with a dragon tattooed on his back. He was 1.8 meters tall, with a tiger's back and a bare waist. There was a 7 or 8 centimeter long scar on his stomach, which looked very hideous. You, what are you doing? Kui Ning squeezed Lu Feng's side in fear, and said, I tell you, don't mess around, this is a detention center, there is someone on duty there, I'll call, the voice is coming. Have you seen this scar? It was a humming stab. That kid was slashed 7 times by me. He knelt on the ground and called him Grandpa. Brother Long stared at Lu Feng and Kui Ning with a sullen face and said, tell me now, are you rich? What's the point of being rich? What is arrogant? The mouse ran over and raised his foot and kicked Kui Ning, scolding, don't talk about it here, even outside, you have to call out when you see Brother Long, understand? Kui Ning nodded again and again, not daring to speak. And what is Mr. Lu, what's arrogant? Do you know the status of Brother Long and Brother Hu? What's the use of having money? You are a grandson in front of Lao Tzu. Tell you, you will sleep next to the urinal tonight. Wash the feet of Brother Long and Brother Hu. Aren't you too rich? Then call home and bring the money. Someone threatened us, we have to change rooms, Kui Ning suddenly shouted at the top of his voice. How about calling your mother? Try calling again. 7 or 8 people rushed over and beat and kicked. Lu Feng was crowded and dragged him to the side, and said solemnly, enough, isn't it just washing your feet? How do you wash your feet if they are broken? You are all big brothers, that's all, don't you have a heart? Brother Long looked at Lu Feng with a sneer, opened his mouth and spat and said, what kind of shit is rich? I call him grandpa when I beat him. What's the use of having money? Isn't it the 3rd grandson? That's right. Usually, the tiger's head is rushing to the scenery outside. What about now? Tell you, here, we are the grandfather, and you are the grandson. Spend money to buy peace, so as not to have problems with your arms and legs. I tell you, if you don't do well, I can bully you. If you do well, I can still bully you. If you have more money, I have to respect you. Bah, you rubbish. The second bastards in several rooms were chatting, with an indescribable sense of superiority in their expressions. What is the use of studying hard, what is the use of trying to make money, aren't they all three grandchildren when I meet them? At this moment, Brother Long felt as if he was the master of the world. As for the mouse, he also felt that he was superior to others. At night, Kui Ning couldn't sleep and sat up and said, I've gotten so mixed up that I don't even have a cigarette. Stop smoking, go to sleep. That gang, grandson smoking or something, it feels like the soil emperor here. Kui Ning's face was slightly bruised, and the whole person was indescribably gloomy. I'm an old acquaintance, and we're a big girl on the sedan chair. It's the first time. We'll talk about it tomorrow. The more comfortable it is, the more comfortable it is, the warmer in winter and the cooler in summer. The smell of urine came from his nostrils. Kui Ning curled up and covered his mouth and nose with his hands and fell asleep. The next morning, some newspapers put a big question mark on the location of the photo because they couldn't find the photo of Lu Feng. GMA food has once again become the main object of discussion on the streets. Zhang Fengxia wanted to take Lu Feng back first through bail, but she was rejected, but she could meet. After 11 o'clock at noon, after ordering a few dishes in the cafeteria, Lu Feng was picked up, and within a day's time, Zhang Fengxia, I feel that Lu Feng has experienced a lot of vicissitudes. How did this happen? Nonsense, do you think I live in a 5-star hotel? Lu Feng sat down with a little emotion. How many people share a room? Is it a big bedroom? Zhang Fengxia asked with concern. Lu Feng looked at her speechless. This girl really didn't know much about the current situation of the detention center. This is also a better environment in the provincial capital. When going to the detention center in the county, some of them are pigsties, sheepsties and so on. The floor, what a big bedroom. I slept next to the urinal last night, a dozen people in a room. Let's not talk about that. Lu Feng is really not used to the hodgepodge they say, every day it's potato cabbage. Lu Feng picked up his chopsticks and took 2 bites first, then asked the market's response, and he was relieved after confirming that there was no problem with the factory's production. Your wife called me, crying pear blossoms with rain, I just wanted to come and see you, my grandfather said, this thing has to wait, the other is useless. Lu Feng learned that Zhang Xiaoyan was a little helpless to know about this matter. She was just an ordinary woman and couldn't bear such ups and downs, so he said, call her and say I'm fine, so comfort her more, don't be too anxious to get angry, and, what's the date today? Number 4. In the middle of the month, if I haven't gone out yet, I'll ask Gao Jiwei to go to the south to seek financing, no matter how many shares, 20 million yuan is required, and the loss is still a loss. Those cases we are prosecuting, applying for jurisdiction, must be if you have to pull back and forth, as long as it is settled on our territory, the case will win 80%. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he lowered his head and took a big mouthful to eat. Zhang Fengxia looked at him like this, and said, aren't you having a hard time inside? Nonsense, Lu Feng suddenly thought of something, and hurriedly said, the most urgent thing is to spend some money, arrange a few people in my room, and manage the relationship, and I'll do it in a while. Who are you going to arrange? Zhang Fengxia was at a loss for this. Just find a few people in charge here, spend money when you need to, and talk about your grandfather when you need to. Just say I want to be more comfortable in it, and they all understand the rest. Oh, Zhang Fengxia nodded and agreed. After eating a meal for more than an hour, all the instructions were in place. When Lu Feng came back, he just saw Kui Ning finished eating. Brother Long sat inside and said, "Oh, rich people eat small stoves. Go out to eat by yourself. If you don't bring something to Brother Long, it's a bit unethical." Brother Hu said on the side, "It seems that you still don't know the sky is high, and there are still a few hours before the night. You can find a way by yourself, or else don't blame Laozi for loosening your bones. If you have money to eat, what's the use? If you can eat it, you won't be able to digest it. I was polite to you yesterday. I didn't listen to what you said, rich man. Since you don't want to spend money to avoid disasters, then keep it for medical treatment." The group of mice stared at Lu Feng and smiled sullenly. Now all they have to wait is the time, and by night, it will be their world. Kui Ning had already been beaten yesterday, and he was even more terrified when he heard the situation today. He looked at Lu Feng and said, "Mr. Lu, don't offend them, or you want to help me pay for it. Give you. Let's talk about it later. It's not easy to make money, and the front waist is spent on the edge of the knife." Lu Feng squatted down and sat next to him and asked, "Is the hodgepodge delicious?" Kui Ning shook his head miserably and asked, "Mr. Lu, what are you eating?" "Cashew nut shrimp, squirrel mandarin fish. Do not talk." The few rooms next to it are all a joke to people like Lu Feng. On weekdays, these rich people drive luxury cars and go to the dance hall to throw money, which is beyond the reach of these two bastards. However, here is their world. No matter how powerful it is of no use here. No matter how rich you are, it is useless here. Except for some delicious food, in their eyes, Lu Feng and Kui Ning are just a piece of meat, and they can be slaughtered. Meat. In the evening, the aunt who delivered the meal came over again. It was still a hodgepodge of dishes. Lu Feng was full at noon and didn't eat dinner. "Damn, shame on you, don't you? I really thought I wouldn't dare to break you." "Brother Long, you don't need to do it, I'll do it." The mouse waved, and several people sitting by the wall stood up. "Wait, lest he cause trouble, can he still run?" Brother Hu said. Kui Ning was so scared that he almost cried, looked at Lu Feng and asked, "What should I do? What should I do? Didn't I tell you, I arranged it? What time is it? What are you planning? You are not a local. What if you don't make any arrangements?" "Be quiet." A prison guard came over, opened the door and said, "Add a few more people, sleep well at night, don't fight. I tell you, your crimes are not trivial, and there is no need to add crimes to yourself. You go in." The four buddies who walked in were as sturdy as a hill, with a murderous look on their faces. Even if Brother Long saw it, he was a little dazed. After locking the door, the prison guard turned around and left. The man in the lead looked at Lu Feng and asked, "Are you President Lu?" Lu Feng nodded slightly and looked at Brother Long. "Tonight is destined to start a big show." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 145. The mice looked at the four of them and felt that they were not easy to mess with, so they said, "Where are you guys? Do you know the guy named Lu?" "I don't know, I don't mix anywhere, my name is Huazi." "I don't know what you want to tell him." "Let me tell you, this is my territory, we have the final say." The mouse patted his chest with his hands, pointed at Brother Long and said, "This is Brother Long." Kui Ning stared at the group of people with wide eyes, and whispered, "What's the situation? There are 4 more people here. We won't even be able to sleep next to the urinal tonight. Why are you worrying so much?" Brother Long and his gang also saw that this Huazi was not easy to mess with, and he spoke a lot more politely. The mouse looked at Lu Feng and said, "What are you doing there? Come and see Brother Hua quickly." Lu Feng stood up. Huazi looked at him, and said coldly, "In the future, this room will be headed by President Lu, and everyone will show me some respect, understand?" "What?" The mouse felt as if his ears had heard it wrong, and his face was full of disbelief. Lu Feng was just a big head. Brother Hua, you didn't know when you first came here. These two things are for the toilet. You don't need to give him face. What did you say? The person beside Huazi rushed over and grabbed the collar of the mouse, shouting, "What are you talking about? I can't stop talking here." The mouse was picked up like a chicken. The whole person was terrified and stared at Brother Long with wide eyes. As for the dog legs beside him, he took a step back in fright. "Brother, let go of your hand, you have to look at the owner when you beat the dog," Brother Long said, with a chill in his voice. "I see it, you are looking for a place for that Lu Feng, right?" "No, it's just that you are upset," Huazi said. "Then take a good look at it, the four of you, there are 9 of me, and I will break your arms and legs by then. Don't blame my brother for being ruthless, and this is here, after you go out, you lack arms and legs, don't blame me for not reminding you." Brother Long took out half a cigarette from his pocket and lit it, and said sternly, "You don't go out and ask about it. I took a knife 5 years ago and chopped all the way from Liuxiang to Ximen Street. If you don't hear it, just do it if you don't want to live. My brother Long is not a vegetarian. You can think about the consequences." The mouse tugged at the hand holding his collar. Huazi turned to look at Lu Feng and asked, "Mr. Lu, what do you mean? Brother, why do you do it? In our world, what can he do with money? He doesn't even know him if he beats him. If he doesn't give money, he beats him. How much money doesn't belong to us?" Brother Long shouted. Lu Feng waved his hand and said, "Let him have a longer memory." "Don't do it, don't hurt the peace," cried the mouse. "Big brother, it's easy to be beaten by the prison guards when you start your hands, and the sentence will be severe. You can't go to the road of no return for crime." The group of mice were just petty thieves, and they all ducked back when they dared to do it. Brother Long rushed forward with a loud shout when he saw that there was no way to retreat. People in other rooms stuck their heads out to look, and the scene was a mess. The 4 of Huazi were very vicious, punched to the flesh, and they were relatively large. In less than 2 minutes, Brother Long had been lying on the ground and moaning constantly, calling the prison guards constantly, but no one answered at all. "I was wrong, sorry, don't fight, I was really wrong." Brother Long lay on the ground and apologized repeatedly. He already felt that even if he was beaten up today, no one would come. As for the group of mice, seeing Brother Long being beaten like this, they stood by the wall and watched. "Present." Huazi turned to look at Lu Feng and asked what he meant. Lu Feng stood up and walked over. Looking at Brother Long and Brother Hu who were lying on the ground, he reached out and took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit a cigarette. "Tell me about what happened 5 years ago." "What 5 years ago? Didn't you say that you cut all the way from Liuxiang Street to Ximen Street 5 years ago?" Lu Feng stretched out his hand to lift his shirt and said, "This scar was also made at that time." "Mr. Lu, I was bluffing you, Liuxiang Street is a snack street. I was covering a few food stalls, and I came in fighting with people. The scar on my stomach was not stabbed, but the surgical scar left by the appendix cutting," Brother Long said miserably. Lu Feng was a little dumbfounded when he heard the result. He was definitely Lu Feng from the second gangster world, and he fooled everyone by bragging. "I don't want to have the same knowledge as you guys. I won't be here for a few days. Yesterday you asked me to sleep beside the urinal. I slept, and you can sleep in the future. Smoking is not allowed in this place, so I confiscated it." Lu Feng stood up and looked at the group of mice. "Didn't you say that money is useless? I'll tell you now, money is more useful than fists in any era." Yes, yes, yes," the mouse's eyes rolled straight, and he said very cleverly, "We have no eyeballs. Mr. Lu looks valiant at first glance, not ordinary people. How can people with low taste like them be compared with you? Why don't you make the bed for President Lu? Prepare to wash your feet." Lu Feng slept in the innermost place. This night was massaged and washed his feet. Kui Ning slept next to him. The two chatted about the TV for a while and fell asleep. It was already late at night, and Brother Long's faces were still bruised, and a pair of resentful eyes in the dark looked particularly vicious. "Why aren't you sleeping yet?" Hua Zi woke up and looked at Brother Long and asked. "I just want to know, how much did he give you?" "Give money? What? Are you still not convinced?" Hua Zi sneered. "Brother, don't make trouble for yourself, there are some people you can't afford to mess with. He just has too stinky money. I tell you this, the warden personally found me and arranged for me to come in. If you want to die here, I have nothing to say. As for the power behind it, you can think for yourself." Brother Long and Brother Hu were almost stunned. They thought that Lu Feng was a businessman with hundreds of thousands. However, this kind of situation was something they couldn't imagine. A breeze blew in, and a layer of cold sweat broke out on the backs of several people. They were all afraid, and they didn't know how such people could be locked up with themselves. In the past 4 or 5 days, Lu Feng's detention center has gotten a lot of food, and at the same time, 7 or 8 people have been transferred out. The outside world is still speculating about GMA food, so he called here to inquire. As the middle of May was getting closer and closer, Gao Jiwei hesitated whether to get up and go to the south. Zhang Fengxia called Zhang Xiaoyan and told her that she had already spent the money and that it was all arranged. Lu Feng would be fine. A week later, the atmosphere in the conference room of the province was serious. During this week, the matter about GMA foods has become so noisy that it seems to be divided into 2 factions. Leverage is allowed to exist, and there is a difference between investment and speculation, but speculation occurs only when there is a market. "Okay, I've been fighting for so long, but I haven't come up with a reason. I heard that Yanhai's brother provinces have all been affected by us. There is already news about this matter, read it." The news can be summed up in one sentence: no matter whether a black cat or a white cat catches a mouse, it is a good cat. Then the question being discussed now is whether Lu Feng is a good cat for catching mice. I think it is that GMA food has provided a large number of jobs to various provinces, promoted healthy market competition, and driven the development of the industry, especially in the field of canned food, which has greatly promoted fruit in rural areas, and we should support it. The meeting lasted for 2 hours, and some people even left the venue. The final decision was that Lu Feng let it go first. This matter has affected the market, not only local investment, but also foreign investment. It is no different to the economic market. A large stone fell on the waveless lake of the ancient well. That's the matter of attracting investment. Do we accept GMA Foods to settle in? I personally think that although GMA Foods is highly leveraged, its market is very good. Although there is a huge funding gap, people can go to the south to seek financing. I don't think we should pass up this opportunity. I don't agree, this matter is very risky, and Lu Feng takes policies, land, and loans everywhere. The risks are very high, it is easy to form unfinished projects, and there is no collateral. Director CAI objected. That day I joined a lot of people to talk to him, and it was determined that it was not a good goal. First of all, GMA Foods' 6 factories have been opened in the early stage, which has driven the local economy to be huge. Although he set up 16 factories in the early stage, several places have not been discussed, and now there are only 12. We are not in a hurry, but have long-term development vision. Let's do this. Leave the reception of GMA Food to Director Li, and hand it over from the Investment Promotion Office. Okay, let's end the meeting. There were only 5 people left in the detention room. Several prison guards came over, holding documents in their hands, and said, "Lu Feng, come out, sign this document, and you can leave." "Can you go?" Lu Feng had a bit of joy on his face. "Yes, go through the formalities and let's go." When Kui Ning heard that Lu Feng could leave, he became anxious, stood up and asked, "Can I leave?" "He is speculating, and so am I." "Your chances are too small, keep squatting." "What are you talking about?" Kui Ning hurriedly turned around and said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, help me with activities, I am familiar with the TV thing, as long as you pay, I will pay, absolutely. Make a lot of money, really." Lu Feng signed a few documents. Seeing that he was indeed a problem, he might not be able to contact him after he left. He said, "Leave me a phone number, it's not easy to change, I may do this for 2 years and contact me when the time comes, of course, if you are sentenced, there is nothing I can do." "What is this called?" "President Lu, please help." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 146. Kui Ning just left Lu Feng's phone number. As for his case, Lu Feng doesn't seem to be involved too much. Although it doesn't seem to be a good friend, for businessman friends, Lu Feng only believes in one truth, and that is interested, always friends. After going through all the formalities, Lu Feng walked out of the gate of the detention center. He originally thought that Zhang Fengxia would come to pick him up, but he didn't even have a figure. Lu Feng just planned to pick up a car and go back to the hotel first. "Mr. Lu, right," a Santana stopped in front of Lu Feng. Lu Feng looked at this man. He looked like he was in his 50s. He didn't look like an ordinary person, and his temperament didn't look like a businessman. He nodded and said, "Who are you?" "My name is Li Junfen, the local mayor. I just finished the meeting this morning and decided to let you go. Now I will take the job of Director CAI and contact you. Get in the car first, I will treat you to dinner." Li Junfen waved his hand very politely. Road. Although Lu Feng didn't know what was going on, he still got into the car first. Now that Lu Feng didn't have a penny on him, it was naturally his treat. There was a lot of people in a local restaurant, and the rubbish on the ground was everywhere. Four-legged tables and plastic stools seemed to be chaotic, but there was an indescribable atmosphere of the world. They ordered 3 dishes, then 2 bowls of rice and 2 bottles of soda. The 2 of them didn't say a word. They started to eat with their heads down. The weather was already hot, and there were so many people here, Lu Feng's head was already covered with clutter. Sweat. The ceiling fan above the head is turning lazily, talking is better than nothing, and drinking soda after eating is indescribably refreshing. These sodas are made by a small local workshop. They are very cheap. If GMA Foods opened a factory here, the price should be very low, right? Li Junfen asked without looking up. Definitely, there is no transportation fee, and the price is naturally low. This soft drink is completely blended. Although we also blended it, it has 30% fruit juice. To be honest, buying some cheap fruit is really not much money. Lu Feng said and put down the soda. "Drink out, how was the meal?" "Very good, since Mayor Li is in charge, when can we have a good talk?" Lu Feng counted the time silently in his heart, and said, "I really can't wait too long, it will be decided in 3 to 5 days. Down. It won't take 3 or 5 days, let's talk now, I'm not sitting here." Now, Lu Feng looked at the surrounding environment and said, that Director CAI didn't find a bunch of financial and market supervision that time. No need, I guess Director CAI needs to rest for a while. Let's talk about it now. You state your conditions and what you want. Free land, about 1,500 mu to 3,000 mu, low interest or even interest-free loans from banks, the money should not be less than 20 million, and it cannot be a special fund. I have the right to misappropriate it for up to 5 months. Time, and 3 years of tax exemption. I want a lot. What do you have? I have a market, and it will be wildly profitable in the next 3 months. Summer is here, and the beverage outbreak period is here. The first phase of several of our factories will start construction immediately. Next year, the construction of more than a dozen factories will start, and it will be completed within 3 years. Most of the plant construction will be completed in 5 years. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he didn't speak. People today don't believe in the market. They think those things are too far-fetched. They must ask you to come up with something pragmatic enough, such as a factory building or something. We have no competitors in the northern market. Even if we fail to compete in the southern market, we will still not go bankrupt. You have to believe in the market, and believe that we will show exponential growth in the next few years. I speak from my heart. Now we need, if we grow up and invest here again, that's not the case. Okay, I have read all the market data of your factory. I promise you your conditions. 20 million is 1/3 of the investment in investment. I don't believe in any market, I believe in you. Li Junfen looked at Lulu. Feng said, I read your profile. Really? Lu Feng was a little excited. He picked up the soda and said, I believe you must value my good and kind character. No, no, I read your family history. You are not a thing. People like you are very promising. Lu Feng's smiling face froze, but he still touched it with a soda bottle. Li Junfen understood one thing very well. Gaming in the business world is not ethical or human, only money. Only when the money is in place can this company survive. And people with no bottom line will always survive better than those with bottom line. Lu Feng didn't ask more about Director Cai's situation, let alone why he went in, and why he let it out inexplicably. He just knew that it had already happened. The original thorny problem, like a constipation for many years, is instantly unobstructed. After eating and chatting for a while, they chatted with each other, got acquainted with Mayor Li, drove Lu Feng back to the hotel, and agreed to sign a specific contract tomorrow. I asked the front desk. Zhang Fengxia was still here. She went upstairs and knocked on the door. The door opened. Zhang Fengxia was surprised when she saw that it was Lu Feng. Why did you come out? You still have the guts to say it? Don't know if I'll release it today. Where can I find out? You don't even call me, you let it out. Didn't you run out by yourself? Zhang Fengxia asked suspiciously. I ran out, Lu Feng said angrily. How can I run? When I was taken away, I wore pajamas for breakfast. What do you mean? Are you going to be detained for a few days and pay me my salary? That's right, Zhang Fengxia stuck out her tongue in embarrassment and said, I'll pay attention next time. Next time? What are you doing these days? I'll wait for the news. If you are shot, I won't need the money. I'll buy a ticket to go home, eat here every day, travel, and so on. Zhang Fengxia raised her head and saw Lu Feng's eyes that were about to kill her. She smiled very cutely and said, I lied to you, I am worried about you, I chat with your wife every day to comfort her, I told her that you have come out, these few. What about the relationship between heaven and earth? Prepare the relevant materials in the afternoon, and prepare to sign the contract tomorrow. What contract do you sign? Zhang Fengxia asked in confusion. What are we doing here? Zhang Fengxia thought for a while and said, signing the contract for investment promotion. I almost forgot about the trouble. Didn't Director Cai say no? He has already arrested you, and President Gao has prepared the prospectus these days. Yes, I called yesterday and said to leave tomorrow. I see, you prepare the materials. Lu Feng turned his head and went back to his room. First, I called Zhang Xiaoyan to report safety, and then called Gao Jiwei to learn about the recent market situation. They were still in a state of anxiety. They are all confused on the issue of jurisdiction. However, The idea given by the courts of the two places is to mediate and hope that the two parties can sit down and have a good discussion. There have been more than 600 cases in which the two parties have litigated each other. To put it bluntly, the two parties are looking for trouble for the other party. Moreover, Gao Jiwei has contacted several financing companies. The communication on the phone is to sell 40% of the equity in exchange for 15 million financing, but it is to be announced to the public that the financing amount is 150 million. Although Lu Feng knew that it was difficult to obtain financing now, and the current situation of GMA Food was even more slaughtered by others, he did not expect that 40% of the equity would be exchanged for 15 million, and he had to cooperate with others in acting. I know that the other party is a listed company, and it will be more than 15 million if it rises a little. It is equivalent to prostituting shares in GMA Food. Tell Gao Jiwei that financing can be stopped, and it will be fine right away. Once the money arrives, it will be enough to fight for a while, and the gap will be temporarily blocked. The next few months will be the best time for summer beverage sales, and the other party can't afford it. In the end, it is a result of peace. As long as the peace is reached, GMA Food will win. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng took a shower and fell asleep without even having a meal in the evening. This sleep was exceptionally sweet. When I woke up, it was past 7 in the morning. I went to the breakfast room in my pajamas. Just after entering the restaurant, a group of people stared at Lu Feng. Even the waiter stared at him with wide eyes. Is it him? It's him. Why did you get caught? Who knows, it seems to be honest, and the ghost knows what to do. I heard from Aunt Lu from the housekeeping department that it should be whoring. I told the woman who came with him that it was prostitutes. I'm looking for a few. Real or fake? Can one prostitute be caught? I heard that he found 7 or 8. Ranging from 189 to 689. What about whips, candles, tiger stools, etc.? Beasts. Listening to the muttering in his ear, Lu Feng felt a little speechless. He ignored it and ate with his head down. Last night, Gao Jiwei told him that the public opinion about GMA Food was not very good during this time. When Zhang Fengxia arrived at the restaurant, Lu Feng hooked his finger at her and said, "Come here. You slept quite early yesterday, and you look in good spirits today. What's wrong?" Zhang Fengxia came over and asked. "You told the people here that I was arrested for visiting prostitutes. You also said that I was looking for 7 or 8, ranging from 189 to 689, Lu Feng squinted at her and said, "Huanpa whip candles. When you were leaving, didn't you say that you should not spread this matter? Now everyone in the hotel knows that a perverted whore client has been arrested here, and no one knows that the owner of GMA Food has been arrested. This matter, am I doing it beautifully?" Zhang Fengxia looked like she was asking for credit. Lu Feng laughed miserably. With such a secretary, why is he not famous? Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 147. After breakfast, he changed his clothes. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng appeared under the city building in a suit and leather shoes. Compared with yesterday, he was completely different. Li Junfen also put on formal clothes. Compared with the two people in the local restaurant yesterday, he was more like Nan Ke Yimen. The contract was signed very smoothly. Give money to land to give policy. As for some harsh conditions that can be overcome, at least the damage of these conditions is much more cost-effective than financing. At 11 o'clock noon, the contract had been signed, and he had a meal together in the canteen of the agency. In the afternoon, Lu Feng called Gao Jiwei back to fax the contract back so that they could print it out and announce it to reporters. This is not only for the media, but more importantly, for Wahaha. Tell them that if they want to continue playing, the big deal is that the two of us will lose together this summer. With 20 million in funds, Lu Feng has enough confidence to play with him to the end. The news of the arrest of GMA Foods boss is still spreading everywhere. Although Gao Jiwei has refuted the rumors several times, it is still useless. In the afternoon, Du Kefeng and Gao Jiwei convened a lot of reporters to show the contract to the outside world. The two had the same paragraph and said to the reporter, "Our boss said that we don't care about money, we just want to give everyone a benefit." As soon as the sentence came out, the response exploded in all walks of life. Others became popular overnight. Lu Feng did not pass the night, and he has already started to become popular, especially the sentence of life and death. If you don't accept it, many people heard the sentence for the first time. Secretly exclaimed that this is really humming domineering. The owner of GMA Foods is already a contemporary internet celebrity, but not many people know what he looks like and what he is called. Lu Feng doesn't really want to show his face. Will cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. In the last life, he suffered a lot of secret losses because of his fame. On May 11th, Lu Feng boarded the plane home and watched the scenery outside the window retreating rapidly. The plane took him out of the gravity quickly. He felt a little emotional. This trip is easy to say, and the negotiations that follow will not be easy. It's hard to say, if I wasn't a rebirth and knew that the road to marketization is a historical necessity, I'm afraid that the detention in those few days could have scared him half of his life. Lu Feng knew that Wahaha would never fight with him again, it would be meaningless. If they fought this summer, the two companies would be dragged down. He remembered that Taiwanese companies like Master Kong and Uni-President entered the mainland market in 1992. Enterprise entry does not happen overnight. Maybe it has already started to contact. The current 4 Asian tigers are very capable of fighting. If they do not grow up, they will not be able to resist the first wave at all, and in the next year or two, food companies in various provinces will rise, such as Hualong and Chiatai. The food industry is a low-level industry, and the only way for industrial development. The low threshold in this industry means that it is highly competitive. Lu Feng did not plan to be GMA Food all his life, or he would not have no financing money to dilute the shares to that way. After many business trips, Zhang Xiaoyan was the first to pick her up. When she walked out of the airport, she saw her standing beside the car with a bunch of flowers in her arms, looking nervously in the crowd. "Oh, she still knows how to buy flowers," Zhang Fengxia asked in surprise. Lu Feng waved his hand and said, "This is it." When Zhang Xiaoyan saw Lu Feng, her face instantly turned red. Obviously she still felt a little pretentious about buying flowers. But she still ran over and saw that Lu Feng's eyes were a little red. Hey, don't do this, hold back," Lu Feng hurriedly reminded her when she saw that she was about to send a flood. "I see you happy. The flowers are pretty good, don't cry when you're happy. I don't have anything to do, I haven't seen any storms, how many? As for the kindergarten, I just watched TV and everyone bought a bunch of flowers. I walked around the door of the flower shop for a while before entering. People asked me who I gave it to. If it was my lover, I was so angry that I walked out on the spot. What did I say? I found another one to buy it." Zhang Xiaoyan said this incident with a bit of anger. Zhang Fengxia laughed while listening, and said, "Isn't he your lover? How can you be called a lover? How ugly, this is a man." All right, Lu Feng smiled and stretched out his arms to hug her. Many people around looked towards him. It was definitely a spectacle for a man and a woman to cuddle in public. Lu Feng could feel Zhang Xiaoyan's whole body stiffened. He was in his arms for a few seconds before struggling slightly. He looked at her again and found that her face was already blushing. "So many people are watching, go home, everyone is fine." "No, you blushed like this, I'm not married, and I don't have a boyfriend," Zhang Fengxia teased a few words aside, making Zhang Xiaoyan's face even redder. "Shut up," Lu Feng got into the car and said angrily, "Go to the factory to work overtime in the afternoon." Zhang Fengxia got in the car, rolled her eyes, and didn't speak again. In the afternoon, Lu Feng stayed at home all the time. In the evening, he and Zhang Xiaoyan went to pick up Duo. At the same time, they went out to have a meal. When summer came, some people began to gather in the square, and more snacks and toys began to be sold, which was very lively. After spending time with Duo, I naturally want to spend the night with Zhang Xiaoyan. After 2 or 3 days of being bored at home, Lu Feng felt more and more that he needed a big house, especially when Duo was no longer a 3 or 4-year-old child, he was about to be 5 years old. After breakfast in the morning, Zhang Xiaoyan sat across from him in a daze. Lu Feng looked at her and asked, "What's wrong? Are you eating? Stomach is not good, do you think I am pregnant? Would you like to go to the hospital for an examination?" Lu Feng asked. "Didn't you go to the factory today? I'll send Duo to the kindergarten later, and then I'll check it myself." Lu Feng wanted to send her there, but Zhang Xiaoyan repeatedly refused, just saying that he should be mentally prepared, maybe a new life would come. Seeing her like this, Lu Feng could only smile and nod his head in agreement. At 9 o'clock in the morning, when he arrived at the factory, Lu Feng thought that he should buy a few cars in the name of the factory. At least Gao Jiwei had to get a car. Thinking that he went out to run errands and rode Lu Feng's old motorcycle, it was enough. Shabby. "Hello, Mr. Lu. Long time no see, President Lu." The greetings came one after another, and Lu Feng waved his hand in response. He originally wanted to go to the office, but turned his head and entered the finance office. "Mr. Lu, is something wrong?" a female employee asked. "Is Manager Li here?" "On a business trip, I'll find our supervisor for you." "No, how much money is in the account now?" "There are less than 1 million left. Recently, there have been a lot of bills, but very little, but I heard that there are 20 million to come in." "Okay, let's arrange for 400,000 to 500,000 yuan to come out, buy 2 cars recently, and tell Boss Li, or the director or something." Lu Feng turned his head and left. On the way back to the office, I happened to pass by the factory building. Lu Feng stopped by to take a look. At least the management of production is relatively strict. Han Dong came over and said a few polite words. There was no harmony on the spot between the words. Instead, there was an indescribable estrangement. Lu Feng knew that some people's abilities were here. If he hadn't met Lu Feng, Han Dong would have been an ordinary worker. Now that he is the manager of the production room, he would be considered honorable. The world is like this, life is a marathon, no one can accompany you to run all the time, some people run and run to get somewhere. As soon as he walked out of the factory, he ran into Gao Jiwei. "Mr. Lu, why are you still doing an undercover investigation if you don't go to the office this time?" Gao Jiwei was a bit dumbfounded. He went to other factories to play like this, and he still played like this in this factory, jokingly said, "I am the manager of this factory, you are in charge." "Listen to what you mean, I'm very irresponsible as the person in charge," Lu Feng asked with a smile. "I didn't say that. Our factory is a model factory. Many other factories, even state-owned enterprises, come to our factory to learn management experience. Even if you manage well, some companies even ask you to give lectures to their management. I directly refused. Busy people like you, give them a lecture, they have to understand." "Stop, stop, stop flattering." Lu Feng hurriedly raised his hand to stop it. Recently, he felt that he was traveling between factories and learned to flatter. Speaking of relief, the financing company just started to be arrogant, and told me on the phone that your GMA food is worthless, it's all blown out, and those markets are also smashed out of money, it's worth the price, and in a few days, it may be worth less, making me so angry. After I got the investment promotion policy a few days ago, guess what was said on the phone? Gao Jiwei's face had an excited look, and it felt as cool as a slap in the face. "Did they beg you?" Hey. I'm really begging me, tell me, Mr. Gao, I'm begging you, I called you that day and drank some wine and farted, don't take it seriously, I think people like you don't care, it's still 1,505, we want 15% of the equity, what do you think? Gao Jiwei laughed when he spoke, and said, I told him at the time, get out of the way, my grandfather is rich, and I won't serve you anymore. Ha 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 ha, Lu Feng smiled, walked towards the office, and said, if we encounter this kind of stuff in the future, let's not talk about whether we have money or not, we must become mad and arrogant, you know, we can't lose GMA. The face of the food, by the way, I just told the finance to buy 2 cars this month and give you a car. Really? Thank you Mr. Lu, long live Mr. Lu, Gao Jiwei's happy mouth almost split open. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 148. The two went into the office chatting and were in a good mood. After this disaster, GMA Foods has basically gained a firm foothold. With the companies on the market now, no one can let it fall. I heard that we can also settle in some southern provinces, Lu Feng sat down and asked. Yeah, but transportation is a problem. The Yangtze River Delta area is also covered by factories in Zhengzhou, and you can reach some cities. Unless you build a factory in the Pearl River Delta area, the transportation cost is too high. The cost of forced transportation used to be similar to the price of local drinks. It feels like an invisible tariff. Gao Jiwei smacked his lips and said, I talked to President Du about this, and he said that the factory will be built slowly later. Don't build a factory, Lu Feng didn't even want to think about it. These factories are enough, and any more construction will only be a burden. Then we don't want the southern market anymore? Since we don't have to toss for so long, what are we doing? Gao Jiwei asked with a confused expression. The cost is too high, and the return in the later stage is too small. We can start the OEM model. We don't have a factory in the south, but Wahaha has it. When the time comes, let it be OEM. Ah, Gao Jiwei was dumbfounded and said, it's so stiff now, can you agree? Look at you, you don't understand businessmen. As long as you have money, there is nothing you can't talk about. As a condition of return, we can also give them OEM in the north. Let it in, the other party will definitely be the same, so this is the solution. You have to remember that in the future, when it comes to business issues, you can save as much as you can, and pursue maximizing profits, but there is one thing that must not be sold when it comes to dignity. Personal dignity, corporate respect, and national dignity, in business terms. Business, but some things cannot be exchanged for money. Gao Jiwei nodded thoughtfully, this sentence was firmly in his heart, he could feel that Lu Feng's business knowledge was beyond his imagination. Let's talk about something else, how's the case? It's not about reconciliation, what kind of reconciliation method? Lu Feng asked. There are 2 cases in court now, and our lawyers have also passed a few. It is about the probiotic product, which is said to be infringing, and the other party also gave the formula and decomposition structure, so we stop production and compensate 5 million, as well as the packaging and promotion, that is, we promote that children who drink probiotics will eat deliciously, and they are rubbing off on their marketing, and our case has not yet opened. It's just that the jurisdiction didn't come over. Lu Feng took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit one, and threw it on the table. After a while of silence, he said, what do you mean by mediation between the 2 courts? President Ma has approached me a few times and said that this matter is very difficult. According to the current contact between the 2 sides, because the court is not open, let's pay some money for other cases. Losing money? Let us lose money before the case is closed. Why? It's already decided. Lu Feng was a little angry, but this is normal, and asked, how much? I met the deputy general manager over there, so I called his house and asked him to ask for help. As a result, they came back and told me that they would lose $1 and let us publish an apology in all provinces across the country. Lu Feng raised his brows, his face darkened, and he said, "Want to humiliate me? Oh, since he wants to play, then continue to play with him. I have 20 million enough to stay with him until the winter." After hearing the news that day, I was also very angry. The next day, President Zone called me and said that everyone has been struggling for so long, and everyone has insufficient cash flow. I apologize and say a few words, mainly to save us money. Lu Feng sneered and said, "It's impossible, what does President Ma mean?" He said this is what he can do, and there is a private reconciliation. Both parties have withdrawn the lawsuit. They made it very clear that day, that is to find someone, and whoever has a hard relationship will win. Do you need to go to the south for a while? Lu Feng waved his hands again and again, yawned, and said, "Let me rest for a while. I don't care about these things these few days. I sleep and think about whether to go on a trip." "Okay, the weather is hot during this time, go to the beach to play, eat some seafood or something," Gao Jiwei suggested. "Then am I going to have a holiday too?" Zhang Fengxia rushed over and asked excitedly. "You can rest if you want, no one can control you." Lu Feng looked at her, and the thought of her grandfather coming forward flashed by, and he was immediately rejected. During this time, Zhang Fengxia has grown a lot, and she can feel it herself. Lu Feng has let her do a lot of things, even some business negotiation terms and reception. "As you said, I'll go home first, maybe in a month or two. You can settle the salary for me. By the way, give me the 150,000 yuan first, and the remaining 150,000 yuan will be discussed later. 150,000 can only give you 50,000. Recently, the factory's funds are tight. I'm going to buy a car for Mr. Gao, save some money." Lu Feng picked up a piece of paper from the table and wrote a line of words. Put a seal on it, handed it over and said, "Go to the finance department to collect the money." $50,000, Zhang Fengxia called out. "I don't want it. Forget it. I'll buy a car." Gao Jiwei reached for it with a teasing expression. You," Zhang Fengxia snatched it over, looked at Lu Feng and said, "You're ruthless." At 10 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng strolled around the factory. He had nothing to do. He went to the vegetable market at 10:30. He planned to give himself a good vacation these few days. Gao Jiwei said that he had to use the car in the afternoon, and Lu Feng left the car to him. He rode a motorcycle by himself, and the weather was hot, so it was quite comfortable to drive in the wind. Driving home on a motorcycle, I suddenly heard someone shouting from behind at an intersection, "Lu Feng? A lunatic!" Lu Feng turned around and saw a young man in colorful clothes, riding a Suzuki 125. He looked airy, but he couldn't remember who he was. "Who are you? You don't even know me anymore, Zhou Jiangguo, you should remember. Last March, brother, I took you to the billiards hall and ice rink for shopping. After you're done, the girl you were looking for as a guest, forgot, eyebrow." A man riding a motorcycle next to him looked at Lu Feng and him, muttered shamelessly, twisted the accelerator and left. "I know Zhou Jiangguo, but you and I are not too impressed. Zhou Jiangguo is abolished. I heard that he was involved with President Ren, and he invested 20,000 to 30,000 yuan, and he lost all of it. Now I can't find anyone. I heard him say you made it. Why do you just ride here? Look at the landing peak. It didn't send much. You are quite rich. My 80 motorcycle is not worth a lot. You have 4 or 5,000, right? What 4 or 5,000, 8,008, I put $1 million household under my butt, remembering who I am." Lu Feng looked embarrassed and said, "I have something to do. Let's talk again when we have a chance." "What the hell, the dishes you brought are not for cooking at home. Let me tell you, my name is Hanbo, do you remember?" the other party pointed out. Lu Feng was in a trance for a moment. He did find some memories of Hanbo in his mind. He nodded again and again, "Yes, yes, I have time to chat. Don't worry, do you know that now you miss an opportunity to get rich? I'm not what I was last year, look at me." The other party patted the motorcycle under his buttocks with his hands full of arrogance. A pager pulled out from behind. "See, I'm not fooling around anymore, I'm starting to make money. Do you want to make a fortune? Brother, I'll take you with me." Lu Feng declined with a smile, but the other party refused to let him go, otherwise he would not let him go. "I really go home to cook, so let's leave a phone call for you. Let's chat when we have time." "Don't, I feel that you look down on me, brother, and think of me as the me of last year. There is a saying that after a person has been weeded 3 times, he has to gouge his eyes." "What?" Lu Feng didn't respond to what he said for a while. He was stunned for a moment, and asked tentatively, "Is it called, Shivi should be treated with admiration for 3 days?" "Yes, the grass has to gouge its eyes 3 times. Lu Feng. I'm fine now. What I do is also a serious business, so let's take you back. I'll find you when I have a job. If I don't delay things, I also like your temperament. Others want to do it, but I don't want it." Lu Feng couldn't be more stubborn than him, so he could only nod his head in agreement. The other party was sent to the community all the way, and he recognized which door and then left with peace of mind. At noon, after cooking 5 or 6 dishes, Zhang Xiaoyan opened the door and rushed in and shouted, "Dad has cooked a lot of delicious food. Wash your hands and eat." Lu Feng walked out of the kitchen, glanced at Zhang Xiaoyan, found her lost, and asked, "What's wrong?" "I went to the hospital to check, but I didn't get pregnant, it was because of stomach discomfort." Zhang Xiaoyan sat down a little disappointed. "If you don't get pregnant, you won't get pregnant. Why is your stomach uncomfortable? Didn't you look at your stomach?" "I went to tell the doctor, and they said that after so long, I should be pregnant." "What? You want a child?" Lu Feng sat down and looked at her and said, "It may be my problem that I can't get pregnant. This matter has something to do with men, staying up late, drinking, irregular work and rest. I want a younger brother. He Hongyu has a younger brother, but I don't have a younger brother. They have 3 brothers." Duo ran out and shouted for younger brothers and sisters. "Shut up and go back to the house. I'm going to take a break during this time." "It's okay. Let's work hard." Lu Feng looked at her and whispered in his ear, "I like the process of hard work." "You don't look serious, I'm afraid it's my problem." "How is that possible? Even if it's your problem, it can be cured. Hurry up and eat, and send this evil spirit away in the afternoon." After eating, Lu Feng raised his eyebrows and said, "Work hard in the afternoon? Go to hell." The family of 3 was eating, but Lu Feng could clearly feel that Zhang Xiaoyan was a little absent-minded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 149. For 3 or 5 days in a row, Lu Feng not only rested and played with him, but also observed Zhang Xiaoyan secretly. Lu Feng could feel that she was a little heavy on her mind. As for Hanbo, he had long forgotten it. Behind the head. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng was sitting at the table drinking porridge. The TV program was playing. Duo had already been sent to the kindergarten. Lu Feng looked at Zhang Xiaoyan across from him and said, "Didn't Mr. He's wife ask you to go shopping yesterday?" "I don't want to go, I spend money, I can't buy good things from them, I can only buy expensive ones," Zhang Xiaoyan complained. "Come on, it's not bad, I'll get some sleep, You can go. Lu Feng finished drinking the porridge and waved his hand, buy me 2 pieces while shopping. The child is not here, shall we work harder when we enter the house? Zhang Xiaoyan stood up and said eagerly. What's the matter? Look at my legs. Lu Feng pointed at his legs with a bit of a laugh, and deliberately made a trembling look. It's trembling, I've been resting these days, and I can't get out of bed so fast. Already? What nonsense, make me look like I just want to. Don't think about it, go buy clothes. Lu Feng persuaded her to go out. He had heard that a married woman was a man's hell, but he still didn't believe it, but he had thoroughly learned it in the past few days. Zhang Xiaoyan, who was shy before, seemed to be a different person. Of course, he was still shy when he left the bedroom. Not long after he went back to the bedroom and lay down, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Lu Feng sighed and said that he was here. When he opened the door, he didn't see Zhang Xiaoyan. Instead, he saw Han Bo standing at the door in a straight suit. Lu Feng looked at him and asked, is something wrong? Han Bo went into the room without saying a word, sat on the sofa and said, I know you have made some money, but now there is a chance in front of you. I will show you the life of the rich and show you the rich circle of people. Rich people? Lu Feng raised his pants and sat on the bench and said, I'm not interested in rich people. Don't be ashamed. What? Han Bo took out a cigarette from his pocket and prepared to light it. Lu Feng hurriedly said, my wife doesn't allow smoking at home. Look at you, how did you get so mixed up? You're actually afraid of your wife. Han Bo lit a cigarette without caring, and said to Lu Feng, if a man wants to develop, he must be in charge of the house. It's a bachelor, brother, let me tell you, today is definitely a high-end game, all rich people. I'm really not interested in money. Lu Feng yawned and said, I just want to sleep now. Look at you, are you hypocritical? Han Bo said with a puff of smoke, go and change your clothes, this time brother will give you the number. Han Bo raised 2 fingers. 20,000. I haven't seen you for more than a year, is there something wrong with your brain? 200 yuan, hurry up and pack up quickly, can you drive? Lu Feng wanted him to get out of the way, but according to the memory in his mind, this person was notoriously difficult to deal with. Now it seems that he just met him by accident, and he wanted to borrow his temperament. I can drive, but it's okay, just this time, you will take your Yangguan road in the future, and I will take my single plank bridge. Oh, hey, look at what you are doing, you are born to be a poor ghost. I am helping you. Forget it, you are a strict wife. Go and change your clothes. Just this time, you won't be called in the future. Lu Feng nodded, washed his face, put on his clothes and went downstairs. There was a Santana parked downstairs, which seemed to be rented. Han Bo nodded secretly when he saw Lu Feng's outfit. This kid has a very good temperament. He doesn't look like an ordinary person, he looks so rich and rich. Today you will call me President Han. You are the general manager under my command, you know. Lu Feng looked at Han Bo in the rearview mirror, frowned, and felt that the plot was somewhat familiar. He laughed and said, don't worry, I'm familiar with this routine. That's how the world of the rich has to be. You have to pretend, talk about projects, start companies, and listen more. Maybe you can take off when you encounter a project, and you can also draw these people together. This is all knowledge. Han Bo sat in the back seat and said with a smug look on his face, the most important thing is, Pow girl, you rent a car, wear a suit, and stand with those rich people, she will not kill you. Flutter. Lu Feng is too familiar with this kind of routine. To be precise, there are too many such people at those large-scale business gatherings. Whether it is now or in the future, connections are very valuable, and such people are also scumbags. But where are we going? Lu Feng asked. Go to the tea restaurant below the Tianyu Hotel first. Yu Xiao is there. I should have called you over yesterday. I heard about golfing or something yesterday. Lu Feng drove the car with peace of mind. As a rich man, he had an indescribable absurd feeling in his heart when he listened to how this man in the back seat fawned, courted, and met rich people. The car was parked downstairs at the Tianyu Hotel, next to the tea restaurant. It was extraordinarily lively today. As soon as I entered the door, I saw more than a dozen people talking loudly, which was a bit noisy. There were 3 or 4 men sitting in the middle. They looked like they were in their 20s. They looked arrogant and domineering, with an indescribable arrogance. The core of these 4 people was a girl, wearing a long white dress and looking a little pure. The bag next to it is of LV, with a slender necklace around his neck. I don't know the brand, but it looks very valuable. As for the others, there were basically a few people around. Hanbo walked in to sort out his suit, glanced at the crowd, and walked towards a young man of 27 or 18. "Young Master Wang, are you here so early?" Wang Xiao turned his head to look at Hanbo, and said, "Hanbo, come here, let me introduce you." "Li Xiao, Hong Xiao, let me introduce you to someone, my brother, Hanbo, a very interesting person," Wang Xiao introduced. "Li Xiao Hao, Hong Xiao Hao." Han blogger was angry. Lu Feng stood aside and listened. Li Xiao's full name was Li Jiadong, the eldest young master of Feng Xiao Fertilizer Factory, and Hong Xiao's full name was Hong Sixi. The family was in the mutton business and had tens of thousands of sheep. Rich. These people are definitely the first-class second-generation rich in the local area. Their family assets are all at the level of tens of millions. They are the existence that ordinary people look up to. Moreover, the second-generation rich are generally rich for a short time, the taste of money has not been pickled, and the average education level not tall. The two sides were polite for a while. Lu Yingying's eyes fell on Lu Feng and asked, "Who is he?" "Me? I'm his general manager," Lu Feng said. "You don't look very old, don't you?" "I am 25 years old." "You're the same age as me, what's your name?" Lu Yingying's big eyes were full of curiosity. "Lu Feng." Li Xiao and Hong Xiao saw that Lu Yingying was so interested in Lu Feng, and they were a little uncomfortable. They looked at Hanbo and said, "Let's go to dinner first, and then play later. We must play well today." "You can rest assured Hanbo is a smart man." He hurriedly pulled Lu Feng aside and asked, "I asked you to support the scene, what are you doing to seduce people?" "I didn't seduce people," Lu Feng was full of confusion. "You haven't seduced anyone yet, and your eyes are about to discharge. Let me tell you, don't expect Lu Yingying to fight for 20 years. Didn't you see that was the pursuit of the young masters, don't you die?" Lu Feng nodded in disbelief. "That Lu Yingying looks really good, but compared to Zhang Xiaoyan, it's still a little bit worse. The most important thing is that when he is with her, it seems that she has struggled for less than 20 years, right?" No matter how much, Lu Feng ate in the buffet area and went out to play today. Although he is only 25 years old, there are no people of the same age around him all the year round. The youngest is Gao Jiwei, who is still in his 30s, causing Lu Feng to show a more stable and sophisticated look that is completely incompatible with his peers. This feeling is particularly lethal to girls. It was almost 10 o'clock in the morning after breakfast. Hanbo kept interspersed in the crowd, trying his best to get close to the young masters. He was very skilled at having a breakfast. At 10 o'clock in the morning, when everyone left the breakfast room, Lu Feng drove the car and asked, "Where are you going?" "I played golf yesterday, and I heard that I played billiards today. I might go to the race course in the afternoon, and be rich in the evening." "Is there a horse farm in this broken place?" Lu Feng was shocked. He always felt that there was only a broken cross street in the local area. He felt that it was no different from a town. "Look at you, you're poor, right? As long as you have money, you can have it anywhere. This is the daily entertainment of these young masters. Anyway, if you have money, you just play every day, understand? Lu Feng slapped his lips, feeling that he would only spend money but not make money. He also thought that when he grew up, he would have to be surrounded by so many rich sons and brothers. Then again, although the little guy is usually tossing people, he still feels a little uncomfortable when he thinks of her growing up and getting married. The car was parked at a place called Royal Entertainment, with 4 or 5 floors, and a lot of vehicles parked downstairs. I heard Hanbo say that there are many money-making projects here, but it is actually a casino. A group of people surrounded the young masters, and Hanbo hurried forward. He had to make himself appear in the eyes of others all the time, and he had to be their best friend and the most trusted person, so that he could develop greatly. The billiard hall is now considered a high-end consumption. It was not until the arcade was flooded that it appeared on the street. 3 or 4 tables were opened, and everyone was playing. Lu Feng stood by and watched. It can be seen that they are not very good at playing, and even their postures are wrong. Lu Yingying has been sliding on the pole several times, standing there a little embarrassed. "It's okay, continue," Hong Xiao encouraged. Lu Yingying stood up straight and saw Lu Feng, and asked, "Do you know how to fight?" For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Feng, and these eyes were so hot that Lu Feng even felt that the eyes of several young masters seemed to be eating people. Lu Feng smiled with a bit of wickedness and said, "I will." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 150. Lu Yingying's eyes lit up when she heard Lu Feng, and she said, "Then can you teach me?" "He can play billiards." Hong Xiao stared at Lu Feng with sharp eyes like knives, and sneered, "How many times have you seen billiards?" "I play here every day, and my skills are definitely ranked in the top 10 in the city." "I'm 9th, Li Xiao did his part. The remaining 2 young masters hurriedly found a seat for themselves, one was in the 11th and the other was in the 12th. "This ball is not easy to hit, you can help me hit it." Lu Yingying handed the stick to Lu Feng as she spoke. "Boy, let me tell you, this ball is very difficult. Don't say 3 shots, it's normal to not be able to get in with 5 shots. With my strength, I also need 2 shots," Hong Xiao said aside. The people present nodded in agreement. Lu Feng looked at the billiards on the table and smiled. The white ball was in the middle of the bottom, and the target ball was above the middle hole. It only needed a side ball to pass, whether it was the middle hole or the upper hole. It was very simple. In the last life, there was a billiards hall at the back door of Lu Feng University, and it was very cheap for students to get cards. Back then, he was the king of billiards halls, and he was an invincible player in the world in 3 years. "You try to fight, it's just a play anyway," Lu Yingying said. "This is not a game, I'm just betting that he can't get in with 2 shots." Hong Xiao took out a big unity from his pocket and slapped it on the table, looked at Lu Feng and said, "If you get in with 2 shots, the money will be yours." That was 100 yuan, which is definitely a big bill now. Hanbo came over and whispered, "You know something, you can't get in, you can't show off, you know." This was heard by the people on the side, and they shouted, "This guy said he wouldn't let him in, because he was afraid of losing Hong Xiaomian's face. Is Hong Xiaomian something you can lose?" Many people burst into laughter. The atmosphere in the billiard hall eased a little, and the few people watching next to them laughed. "You can fight, don't give me face, you can take the money as much as you can, of course, if you don't have the strength, forget it." Hong Xiao looked at Lu Yingying and said, "Yingying, I can teach you if you want to learn, hand in hand." "Teach." Li Xiao was a little unhappy when he heard this, and said impatiently, "Hurry up and fight, where's Moji Nima? Hurry up." Lu Feng stepped forward with the pole, glanced at the pole and picked it up. His posture was very standard, and a fat man not far away stared wide-eyed at Lu Feng's posture and was a little surprised. Boom! A crisp collision sounded, The white ball shot out, collided with the target ball, and instantly ran straight towards the middle hole, and then entered the hole. One shot. This shot amazed many people. Lu Yingying stared at it with wide eyes, and clapped her hands again and again. It's amazing. Li Xiao stared at Hong Xiao's pig liver-like face and smiled, and said, "Give it 100 yuan, it's a matter of words." Xiao Hong was unhappy and threw the 100 yuan in his hand into a ball to Lu Feng, and said, "I don't believe it anymore. You fight me in this game. If you can win, I will give you 1,000 yuan. Hiss. Many people gasped when they heard this number, and looked surprised. $1,000. This is definitely a lot of money. Of course, for a rich second generation like Hong Xiao, this amount of money is nothing. You scored, keep playing, Hong Xiao said coldly. Lu Feng raised his eyebrows, looked at the remaining billiards on the table, and Hiba had 5 left, and said, "Are you sure you want me to continue playing? If I continue to play, you won't even have a chance to make a shot." This is really crazy. Everyone who was shocked looked at him. Some couldn't believe it. Even the most arrogant people would not dare to say to clear the stage directly. "If you can clear it, this money is yours." Xiao Hong took out 1,000 yuan from his pocket and threw it on the table, and said, "If you can't clear it, I won't bully you, you just kneel on the ground and go to school. The dog barks, get out of here. It is good. Dare. What a big deal." Hong Xiao sees how poor you are, and thinks of you. "What's this called?" He also gave out 1,000, and I helped him out, Lu Yingying said aside. If Lu Yingying didn't speak, she stood up for Lu Feng, which made Hong Xiao's face a bit more cruel, and said solemnly, "Keep fighting, what are you doing?" Lu Feng picked up the pool cue and made a hole in one. Bang bang bang. The billiards collided one after another, and each shot was extremely precise, which made the faces of everyone present become extremely wonderful. Lu Yingying's eyes lit up when she looked at Lu Feng. This hand was too revealing. Han Bo felt that something was wrong. Not to mention why he was so powerful, he seemed to have offended young Master Hong. Wow! The audience was in an uproar. This is the legendary lore. As long as I touch the pole, you can sit down and watch my performance. Hong Xiao's expression was extremely ugly. Even if he was upset, he couldn't have a seizure with the facts in front of him. He threw the money and walked aside without speaking. "Hong Sixi, why aren't you crazy? I said it all, you can't be the 10th one, you have to see me." You know, Li Xiao waved to Lu Feng with a proud face and said, "Let's come together. In one game, I have also killed others, you have to be careful." "Yes, last time he brought me here, he killed that person, just like you." The other party didn't touch a shot, Lu Yingying said aside. With a smug smile on Xiao Li's face, he looked at Xiao Hong, who couldn't tell, and the fat man standing beside him touched his head in embarrassment, thinking whether he should avoid it by himself. He is the sparring partner here, and he is also recognized as the #1 player in billiards. Last year, he organized a competition in the province, and he won the 3rd place and a trophy. As for Li Xiao's lore for him, it was purely a joke. Now he only hoped that Lu Feng would give him some water, or else he would not be able to hang his face, and he would have to be scolded at that time. After setting up the billiards, Han Bo kept winking at Lu Feng. Lu Feng almost blinked when he saw him, and said, "Go ahead." "Are you sure? Let me tell you, if I tee off, you won't have a chance to touch the ball again," Li Xiao said with a smile. "Come on, Nima, there is so much nonsense," Hong Xiao, who was sitting not far away, scolded. "Shut up, the defeated general." Li Xiao scolded, picked up the pole and teed off with one shot. After picking up the suit, he picked up the pole and continued to play. I don't know if he was lucky or really had some strength. 1. It was very smooth, and people around me were amazed. There are a lot of flattering people, even Lu Yingying has a look of admiration. The fat man stood beside him and breathed a sigh of relief, secretly calling out God's blessing in his heart. There was only the last black 8 left. Li Xiao took the pool cue in high spirits, looked at Lu Feng and said with a smile, "Have you seen it? This is rare, you are still too tender, you shouldn't let me tee off." He was not angry and said, "I'll give you a chance." Lu Feng picked up the stick and looked at it. He raised his hand and hit one in one shot. After that, it was full of crackling sounds. In less than 5 minutes, there were only black 8 balls left. Raising his hand and hitting it with one shot, the black ball hit the edge and bounced back violently, rushing straight to the next hole. The audience was silent, staring at Lu Feng with a suspicious look. How could this person be so powerful? Ha 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 ha, Hong Xiao laughed and said mercilessly, "Isn't it amazing? How did you get people to clear Taiwan?" Li Xiao didn't look very good. When Lu Feng asked him to tee off just now, the whole person was even more embarrassed. If it wasn't for him to tee off, I'm afraid he wouldn't have the chance to really touch the billiards. Is that too strong? It's too strong. Did you have him in the provincial competition last year? This is simply the king of billiards. Lu Yingying's eyes lit up at Lu Feng, and she stepped forward and whispered, "You are amazing, can you teach me when you have time? I never know how to play this thing, and I have been learning for a long time." "Sorry, I don't have time to teach you," Lu Feng refused without hesitation. Not to mention Lu Yingying's beautiful appearance, how could any man be willing to reject her just by virtue of her net worth? That's really rejecting a wealthy family. Being so tough, it felt like a slap in the face of young Master Li and young Master Hong, making them unable to hang on their faces. "Sister Lu, he is my subordinate. He is very busy every day. Besides, he can't stay with a young lady like you. He doesn't match his status. Don't think about it." One gave him a warning look. "It's okay, I can ask you, how much is your salary? Isn't it just playing billiards? There are so many capable people, do you really think he is invincible?" Li Xiao said impatiently. "Fatty, where did you die? Come, come," Fatty ran over. "This is the 3rd place in the province's billiards competition last year. That is to say, there are only 2 people who are better than him in the province. That's right. The 1st place in the event led by the province is the son of the director of the provincial general office, the 2nd place is the daughter of the titled businessman Zheng, and the 3rd place is me." Fatty patted his chest proudly. When it comes to playing billiards, he is definitely a sweeping presence in the province, and people rely on this to eat. Everyone was a little surprised to hear this name. The small billiard hall did not expect Hidden Dragon and Crouching Tiger. Fatty is definitely the uncrowned king of this province. What he said just now was to tell everyone that he was actually the champion. "I gave you so many glances just now, but you didn't pay attention. Now let's compare with others. By the way, your labor fee is gone today." Han Bo whispered, "Give me the $1,000 first, I'll keep it for you." "Keep me safe?" Lu Feng looked at him as if he was mentally retarded. Does he look like a 3-year-old child? "No, I can take care of it myself. Don't think about swallowing it alone, give me half of it, you know." Fatty skillfully placed the ball, looked at Lu Feng and said, "Don't take advantage of anyone else, rock paper scissors, whoever wins will tee off." "No problem." Lu Feng moved for a while, feeling quite as if he had found the entrance to the university back then.